Nahida or Raiden Shogun, who should you pull? This is the question that I have been getting quite a lot for the past week. At first I didn't really pay too much attention to it, but the more I think about it, the more it actually makes sense, because there has been rumor that Raiden Shogun is going to be back in patch 3.3, which is like the after of Nahida. So considering that many of us has trouble saving up Primogems, it is a very solid consideration for many of us, especially if you haven't got a Raiden Shogun at this point. So I really value your time and I will try my best to keep the video as short and as concise as possible, and hopefully the video will be able to help you make the best decision on your account. Now guys, if you're someone who wants both Nahida and Raiden Shogun on your account and you're having trouble saving up Primogems, then in collaboration with Paimon's Bargain, we are doing a 6,480 Primogems pack giveaway once Nahida banners drop. The giveaway will be held on my Discord server, link in the description below guys. Hopefully by doing this, it will help you have a better chance of getting all of the character that you want. So if you're new to the channel guys, be sure to subscribe to not miss out on this giveaway. And with that, let's just jump into the video. Now first off, I'll be covering the role that these two characters plays in on your account. I won't be going in depth into their skill and kits, because assuming that you've already known how these two characters are going to be playing out. Obviously Nahida at this point isn't dropped yet, so all of our information won't be as official, and many of which are just our prediction at this point. Plus I won't be needing to discuss much about these two characters' power level, because I'm sure you know how amazing Raiden Shogun is in terms of her power level, and I can almost guarantee you that Nahida is not going to be any less. Now for Raiden Shogun, she is actually going to be a main DPS on your account, because even though her burst only lasts for 7 seconds, that's basically the majority if not all of her damage is going to be going through that, and most of the time you're not likely going to be having any other DPS to use during Raiden Shogun's downtime, because her energy recharge level is just too high. Her burst is just going to be right back up when it ends. The only thing you have to do is wait for her burst cooldown to end, and therefore you're going to be switching to other character to set up their support, as we have seen almost every time in her Raiden national team. So Raiden is going to be the character that's going to take place on field of your team almost all the time, and she's special in that her team rotation generally are pretty fast because her burst is only 7 seconds, so many of the time it can feel a bit like a quick swap team here and there. What's good and I really love about Raiden as well is that she has really good access to support for your team even when she is a DPS character, and that's one of the things that sets a character apart from being an average to actually one of the best character in the game, is that even when you're a main DPS on field but you still have access to such good support kit for your team, you're going to be a versatile character and have a very long-term value. Raiden support is going to be there helping you with a little bit of off-field damage from her 100% E skill uptime. Plus she's increasing your team's burst damage level and helping your team regenerate energy at the same time, making your team almost never have a lack in energy level, which is why up until this point I believe that she's still being considered as one of the most 5-star free-to-play friendly for those who can't really invest too much into their account, because as long as you're using a Raiden national team, you're going to be wiping out literally every content, especially the Abyss. So that's for our Raiden. Now for Nahida, of course once again she's not released yet, so all of these are going to be speculation. However, from all of her kits suggesting, Nahida is going to be a sub DPS character, because her E skill is going to be there on field having an uptime of 100%. The only thing your team's got to do then is going to be triggering reaction in order for Nahida's skill to activate. After that, Nahida setting up her burst as well, increasing Nahida's E skill damage level by a fair amount. Of course you can have Nahida on field, but I can guarantee you that most of the time it's going to be player preferences. Also most optimal role is a sub DPS. If she's going to be on field, she's just basically going to be a driver for the team to activate your other support character skill. Otherwise it's almost always going to be more beneficial to have other hyper carries being on field taking the lead. Now Nahida also have access to pretty decent support for the team as well, especially from the fact that she can give up to 250 EM for your active character. So that's going to be on her focusing more on your team doing reaction damage, whilst Raiden Shogun is on burst damage and energy regen. So those are going to be some of the most important points regarding the two characters. Now we're going to try to help you answer the most important question of the video, which is who is it you want to choose. First of all, in order for you to be able to make the best decision, you will need to actually identify yourself which type of player you are. And mainly in Genshin Impact there are two types, which is either you're going to be fully a casual player, and then the other is that you're more of a player who focuses on the meta. And even if you're identifying yourself as someone who's between, or in other words you consider yourself as a meta player but also have some casual in that as well, I will still put you in the group of meta players. So if you've already answered that question, I will now look into the casual players. So if you are a casual player, you might want to ask yourself these two questions, and once these two questions have clearly been answered, you will generally have the idea of which character you want to pull more in this time, which is that first of all, which character playstyle would you enjoy playing more? Because seeing Raiden and Nahida, their playstyle animation is largely different. One is a poem character who has access to sword gameplay as well, because most of the time she is doing sword damage during her burst, and the other is going to be a catalyst user. Now I know that if you're going to be a casual player, you're most likely going to have Nahida as the character being on the field, because if you're pulling for her, then I'm sure you must be liking Nahida and of course her animation gameplay. Now I would consider these two character playstyle animation to have very unique touch to it, because of course they are Archon characters and Hoyoverse is giving them a bit more specialized treatment. Now for the second question you want to ask yourself is that, do you love this character? Because of course if you don't like the character in the first place, then I don't think there's a reason for you to pull, especially if you are a casual player. But for either of these two characters, there might be a character that you love their lore and story a bit more, so it is something that you want to look into. And now as for the meta player, this of course is definitely going to be largely depending on your account, because of course different accounts have access to different numbers of character that you already have. Therefore the very first question you want to look into is that on your account, are you lacking in DPS character or sub DPS? Now personally my guess would be that most of the time you're going to be lacking in more sub DPS character than DPS, because of course on field character only need one spot, while the other 3 slots can actually be all sub DPS. But of course there are certain DPS character that without the right support it's going to be quite hard to use them. After that, if you're still having trouble deciding, then hopefully the next question will be able to help you in that which elements are you lacking more in. Because for example, up until now I believe that we have quite a lot of electro character already, especially we just had Sino who was introduced. Now if you've just pulled for Sino, then that's going to be a point of consideration to see if you need Raiden at this time. Obviously I can't compare the DPS level of Sino with Raiden because Raiden is just too good, but Sino is pretty much good enough for you to have as an on-field character, which leave then is going to be a better choice of choosing a sub DPS, which is Nahida. Now of course that's just an example, you have to personally look into your own account to decide what is going to be the best need for you. And so those are the overall consideration and questions that you can ask yourself. Now I just want to give you some of my personal recommendations if in the end you are still having a little bit trouble deciding. In that personally I know that these two characters are just going to be very good, especially from the fact that they are going to be the character that works in one team. Who knows, with Nahida release, she might be able to become the next character who plays a role in Raiden national team. So of course I would recommend you to get both characters. However, if Raiden does come back in 3.3, then that does beg a question of whether or not you will be able to pull for both of them. In terms of long-term values between these two characters, for me personally, I do feel that Nahida is gonna have a much longer term value simply because she works as a sub DPS role. And in Genshin Impact, sub DPS characters values always have a much longer lasting than any DPS character, because for example, you may already have a lot of other hyper carries on your account, but it is not always that you are using them. For me personally, I just can't remember when was the last time I had Eula on my account. No hate to Eula by the way, I love her and she is one of the most unique character in terms of hyper carry, but I am a Kuching main, so most of the time I use my Kuching as a main character. Therefore, many of the other hyper carries I have on my account, I haven't been using them in quite a while. However, for sub DPSs, I use most of them every single time, especially when it comes to the Abyss. So since Raiden is acting as a main DPS role, even when she is still one of the best DPS character in the game right now, many of the time, she may still find a bit of competition between your other DPS character, whereas Nahida will have more option for you to use her, especially when Dendro character are just so limited at this point. However guys, if your goal is to get both of these released character on your account, then in logic wise, skipping on Nahida and then saving for next Raiden rerun may be the better option. Now of course we don't know exactly when Raiden is going to be coming back yet, but since this is Nahida's first banner, she has the chance to be back in 4 patches as goes for any newly released Archon. However, it's almost been 9 months already since last time Raiden had her rerun, so if you're skipping on Raiden again by pulling for Nahida, there might be a chance that you will need to wait a little bit longer than you have to, considering that there's just so many characters are waiting to have their rerun right now. So those are everything I have to say within these 2 characters. I hope that this video have helped you have a better clarity of who to choose. Now if you do have any question whatsoever, leave it down in the comment section and I will get to you there. Once again guys, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to not miss out on our giveaway. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me till this part of the videos, and as always guys, I wish you a super day and I will catch you on my next video.